Hey everyone, Crisis here. As a lifelong fan of both Marvel Comics and Metal Gear Solid, one matchup that has been proposed and analyzed across the years has been Wolverine versus Raiden. Two mind-wiped assassins made of metal, sporting psychotic rage-born personalities known for cutting down entire armies of robots and super soldiers. So considering my history, having already broken down these respective combatants in the past, let's compare and contrast their strength, speed, martial arts skill, and various abilities to determine who between the cyborg ninja and mutant killing machine would actually win. For this video, I was actually gifted an all-new microphone. To best hear the difference, you might want to check out Raycon earbuds. You've probably already heard of them, which makes sense since they've already sold 3 million of their classic-style everyday earbuds. I personally got their updated model, which feels like a steal considering they sound and work just as good as earbuds that are double their price. I chose the black version since it best matches my setup. I tend to get pretty easily distracted by other sounds nearby, but with Raycon's noise cancellation feature, I can really hone in on writing or research. The new earbuds as well support quick charging, they are waterproof and sweat resistant. They also sport everyday protective cases, which come in various colors and styles. To support the channel and get a pair of top quality earbuds for 20% off and free shipping, click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/crisis. With that said, let's get back to the video. Starting off with the attack power of Raiden, how much force he could endure or output, we have a solid foundation given the rest of the franchise. As early as the events of Peace Walker, we learned that the titular mech's armor is so durable that nothing short of an atom bomb could pierce its hull. Then, with every subsequent game in the chronology, we're told that each Metal Gear represents the peak of military technology, far surpassing Peace Walker in terms of durability. This would lead to Outer Haven in Metal Gear Solid 4, which is called the strongest and the ultimate weapon, where Raiden, while injured and with one arm, can dent the thing just by holding it at bay. After getting an upgraded and more powerful body, even at the start of Metal Gear Rising, we see Raiden's blocking and withstanding attacks from Metal Gear Ray units, even with just his raw physical abilities alone. This is insanely impressive given that Rays are counters to Metal Gear Rex, with the two being able to clash into one another and damage each other in close quarters combat. And seeing as Rex has armor far surpassing that of Peace Walker, it would mean that Raiden, not yet in his strongest cyborg body, would be able to outmatch materials capable of enduring nuclear bombs. We can take it a step further when we look at Psycho Mantis, arguably the most infamous boss of Metal Gear Solid 1, who is the most powerful psychokinetic on Earth, with even weaker ones being capable of creating natural disasters. Usually when we hear that term, we think of things like earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, and while these events tend to range in their output of kinetic energy, considering that low-tier psychics can manifest disasters of this scale, and Mantis is the #1 strongest among them, I believe it's fair to say that his telekinetic attacks could yield up to mountain levels of force. Seeing as events such as the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, one of the most infamous natural disasters that may be evoked when citing the term, released destructive power 100,000 times greater than the 2 atomic bombs used at the end of the Second World War, according to studies found in Smithsonian Magazine. We know based on the Metal Gear Solid 1 mission log that Solid Snake survived withstanding attacks from Mantis, who considered Snake powerful outright, with even Metal Gear Solid 4 Raiden being called stronger than Gray Fox, who can give Snake a run for his money during the events of the first Solid game. So I think it's all fair to apply this level of durability to Raiden at his peak. He's high-key surviving 100,000 nuclear bombs blowing up in his face at the same time. As far as speed, the Metal Gear series sports many feats of reacting to lasers. As early as the first game, with Snake being described as dodging Metal Gear TX-55's defense beams, Rex's laser weapon, and so on. Raiden would be able to match these for reasons explained earlier, with his speed getting boosted boosted even further via his cyborg upgrades in MGS4 and Rising. His Blade mode represents these enhancements, with him being able to perceive Metal Gear Excelsus's laser beam weapons at an insanely slow rate. Lasers, of course, move at the speed of light, with calculations of these feats placing Raiden's reaction time within the range of hundreds to thousands of times faster than the speed of light. Beyond this, Raiden is an incredibly skilled fighter, managing to hold his own against Vamp, a master of knife fighting that can predict his opponents via reading their muscle movements, who also knows the series' custom CQC fighting style. This martial art is half a century ahead of the curve by the time of its creation in the 1950s, with its attacks being at least twice as painful as conventional styles, while sporting nearly infinite variations of versatility and application. He is of course a master sword fighter as well, being able to defeat Solidus Snake and Jetstream Sam. His overall military capabilities would be among the best in his world, being among the peak of Foxhound agents who are masters of pretty much every facet of combat and dwarf the aptitude of real-world agents like SEAL Team 6 or Navy SEALs. His abilities aside from this include an arsenal of rocket launchers, grenades, he can summon lightning or enter various heightened modes to boost his power, such as Ripper mode, which makes him far stronger and faster. He could as well as use electricity to strengthen his attacks on top of that, and has various items to heal his body and stay in the fight, with even vital attacks or the loss of limbs not necessarily taking him out of the battle. His greatest asset though is his high-frequency blade, a sword which resonates at such a frequency as to destabilize matter at the Planck scale. It's not as if he's just mending flesh from bone, he's actually breaking down the very molecules that consist of one's being. The Planck scale exists at a scope 100 million trillion times smaller than protons, and Raiden swinging a sword around that tears apart the means that bind his opponents at that level. This means that, against many opponents that don't exist as spirits or intangible matter or the like, it really doesn't matter how much force they can withstand, as the HF blade is assailing them in such a more fundamental way than simply applying force to bruise their skin or break their bones. It's one of the most effective weapons in gaming that doesn't exist purely in the realm of magical or beyond. As for Wolverine, the best there is at what he does, there are a few versions we can draw from when matching him against Raiden. Starting with the animated Fox Kids or Disney Plus X-Men 97 version that's currently in the spotlight, most of his power scaling comes from Spider-Man of the same universe. Within the episodes adapting the Secret Wars event from the comics, Dr. Doom uses his powers stolen from the Beyonder to drop a mountain on the heroes' heads. They all survive this, even Captain America and Black Cat, who aren't even high-tier superhumans in these shows, with Lizard taking the brunt of this and lifting the whole thing. Wolverine was shown in the crossover episodes to be able to scrap with Spidey pretty evenly, without even drawing out his claws for censorship purposes, with the energy that Lizard withstood here being calculated to yield up to 16 metric tons of TNT. So based on the math therein, having a mountain plopped on top of you is about equal to what it would take to vaporize a city block. Go figure. This seems to be where most of the characters here cap off at, as the feat itself was performed by a Beyonder amped Doom, who is pretty much beyond any of the heroes' comprehension or ability to deal with otherwise, and it sapped his strength on top of that. Spider-Man here can as well dodge lightning, which is about 1/3 of the speed of light by comparison, and Wolverine can keep up with Spider-Man and his foes. I think it's safe to say that Raiden puts down this version of Wolverine pretty easily. Even a Metal Gear is far more durable than what a pretty much god tier of the X-Men 97 universe could do, with lightning being far below the speed of lasers that Raiden would be capable of perceiving in slow motion. Wolverine in the show isn't as unbeatable as one might be led to believe, as he's been knocked unconscious plenty of times, or essentially killed in a future timeline through combat with Sentinels. We also have never seen this version of Logan or Adamantium stand stand up to something like an HF blade, and unless we have any proof of it withstanding having its matter destabilized at the Planck scale, we can only assert that Raiden would blitz and cut apart Wolverine to secure a victory. I don't think he's even healing fast enough to beat the 10 count after that. If we look more so to the movies, however, seeing as I've already covered the ins and outs of Hugh Jackman's version of the character, that matchup may prove to be closer pitched. Wolverine and Sabretooth, his bitter rival, have been called the physically strongest mutants on the planet, with the latter being able to survive the full power of Storm in the original X-Men movie timeline. Extrapolating from her ability to generate multiple hurricanes at insane speeds, and considering that such phenomena produce energy capable of devastating entire towns, it would be fair to say that Wolverine could endure such forces. In addition to this, Wolverine's been shown reacting to optic blasts, emulating Cyclops' abilities, which in the film continuity are essentially lasers traveling at the speed of light, granting Logan roughly relativistic reactions and combat speeds. He is also an elite fighter, the best on Earth during X-Men Origins, and has outdone many master fighters in hand-to-hand, and even does battle with foes that can predict where a teleporter would spawn. This is all dwarfed though by his healing abilities, which were able to defend against the Phoenix's molecular destruction. Jean Grey's malevolent form was tearing apart reality at a quantum level, as shown with her killing of Charles Xavier and further explained in the movie's official novels. As her power grew, she could tear holes in reality, and was implied to transcend every universe. Retroactively, this would place her as some Infinity Ultron or King of Stories Loki-esque being, since we now know that these Fox X-Men movies exist in a multiverse connected to those MCU god-tier characters, and the Phoenix was going to surpass every universe in that multiverse, with Wolverine being able to survive and heal from these attacks packing such magnitude. This would certainly be a lot for Raiden to handle, yet still I think he wins more times than not. He's still much faster and stronger than this Wolverine, being at least 100 times faster with the likes of nuclear bombs and especially volcanic eruptions which Raiden could endure, being far beyond even Storm's full power. Skill-wise too, the Metal Gear universe simply has a far higher ceiling in the case of martial arts or military prowess compared to the X-Men, with CQC having better lore all around, and super soldiers of that series have to contend with teleporters in a similar manner as Wraith and Sabretooth left and right. While it is very possible that the live-action version of Adamantium and Logan could withstand or at least heal from the HF blade, Raiden wouldn't have to slice Wolverine apart to win. In material canon to the movies, electricity has downed the X-Man, with blunt force as well putting him out of the fight plenty of times, and from enemies far less physically capable compared to Raiden. It would still pretty much just take one punch from the cyborg to rattle Wolverine's brains around in his skull and get the W via knockout. There really isn't any way for Logan to win by comparison. Moving on to the main comics, Solid Snake's proxy would most likely be cut short. While there are surely plenty of avenues to downplay the 616 Wolverine, when we compare the best that these two have been able to perform, it's not really close. Logan can infamously combat the Hulk, cutting into his flesh and taking his attacks while coming back for more, with the Jade Giant being a planet buster while being brutally conservative. He can even score the likes of Thanos and the mighty Thor. There really isn't much his claws can't cut in the Marvel Universe. This goes hand in hand with his speed, with even the street tiers in Marvel such as Captain America avoiding laser beams left and right. Hell, the likes of Silver Surfer, who Thor and Hulk scale to, flies across the universe at millions of times faster than light and maintains this pace while in combat. Wolverine is a bit of a meathead though, to put it lightly, so despite having a strong martial arts background actually akin to Captain America or Black Panther, he more often than not just swings wildly in hopes for the best. As it usually comes down to when assessing comic book characters, there are multiple lanes of scaling we can implement here to make the fight a little closer, such as embracing the feat showcasing Spider-Man's consistent surpassing of Wolverine, who is safely below the likes of Hulk and Thor even at his most motivated. In this sense, Raiden could possibly skirt by just barely with a win if he uses his martial arts skill in tandem with his high-frequency blade to its utmost efficiency. Following feeling more in line with the narrative that this guy could kill the Marvel Universe and fight the Hulk, however, someone who could break worlds or Superman punch realities apart, it's safe to say that while Raiden could cut down most versions of Wolverine, he stops at the main comic version as long as he's operating at peak efficiency. With all of that said, I hope you enjoyed my analysis. Feel free to let me know in the comments who you think would win, as well as suggest any matchups for me to cover in the future. And as always, thanks so much, and I'll see you all next time.